Hello and welcome to the Death Battle Cast, the only show where people die and it's totally okay. Hi, I'm Ben, voice of Wiz, joined by Liam, voice of Liam. Right?
Documentaries are also where people die, but I guess it's not okay in that instance.
It's never okay.
It's never okay. Yeah, but it's okay here. Hi, everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Time to kill.
Another writer director. We got Josh. What's up, Josh?
Hey, sorry, I'm just documentaries now. That's put me on a whole different mind path. Hello.
Welcome to Documentary Battle. And then live producer of the show, it's Aaron. Aaron's back.
Hello.
What's up, Aaron? All right. We have quite a show today with a matchup that has been requested a lot. That I think is really cool, but I haven't really
Liam
I guess
seems
dived
really
into.
enthused.
Yeah, I just had a really big yawn at that one moment. I just said it at the worst moment. Yeah.
Totally. Really.
That's how I feel.
Really
about
good
it.
matchup.
Well,
Sure.
it was. I remember Broly versus Asura was the big one initially, but then Broly got the super treatment, the Dragon Ball Super treatment, and he kind of is now scales past Asura, so it's less. It's less even now. But
So you think. So we will find out because I had an inkling of how powerful Asura might be when before this, but then I dived into it literally this morning and I found some crazy stuff.
Okay, then never mind.
Yes, we are going to be talking about Kratos, the god of war, versus Asura of Asura's wrath, the god of wrath. Because he doesn't want to be, but also he kind of isn't, and also is. It's weird. Asura's wrath is a janky story, but not in a bad way. Not a bad way. It's just it doesn't bother itself with some specific details because it's more so about the emotional structure of it. It's kind of the point of his power. But anyway, Asura is a character that I did not know much about before diving into this. I had never played the game, to be completely upfront. I remember when it was coming out, and there was a lot of I guess controversy because its release structure was weird at the time.
Yes.
It specifically released episodes that you would play. It all came on a disc as well. But I believe they released individual episodes, if I recall correctly. But the big one was the disc did not have the ending on it. The final missions you had to buy as DLC, which was very strange, especially for the time. DLC was still sort of a not a new thing, but not generally as accepted as it currently is. The idea that there was still the question of well, if you're preparing DLC while you're working on the game, why not just put it on the game? That was still a big question that was up in the air, and people just didn't really understand how that kind of production worked. So I remember that coming out, and I remember thinking, oh, that doesn't really sound like a game I'm interested in playing. But now that I look into it, holy shit, Asura's Wrath is dope as fuck, y'all. It's really cool. And of course, Kratos just had his 9th, 10th, 14th, 27th game. He's been in a few.
Is it 5 mainline games?
Yes.
There's
And
1,
lots
2,
of
3,
spin-offs?
Ascension. There's more than that.
There's a PSP game.
PSP game,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
PS Vita
yeah,
game,
yeah.
I think.
Vita game. He
And
was in Soul Calibur. That totally
he was
counts.
and he was in Shovel Knight, where his best scaling comes from.
There we go. Oh, we're just going to be using Shovel Knight feats?
No, we will not be using Shovel Knight feats.
Well, that's okay, because Asura
that'd be
fights
unfair. That'd be unfair.
Akuma at one point. We can use Street Fighter feats. Not that that would really help. All right, so here's how this works. If you're new here, I will be representing Asura. Liam will be repping Kratos, and it's our job to convince the jury to vote for our respective character through any means necessary, and the jury consists of 3 seats. For this one, it will be Aaron, Josh, and you all. watching this live. Hey, thanks for watching this live, guys. I'm checking out the chat right now, seeing a lot of amazing badges of all sorts of colors going up. Love to see y'all. We do this show live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central time. So if you're listening to this later, please come by during a live show. We'd love to have you. We will be voting at the end of the show, and you will get a chance to vote for who you think should win. So, let's dive into this and start with. Well, I just want you to start with Kratos because I don't even know how I'm going to start with Asura. To be honest.
Okay.
60 seconds on the clock.
Kratos is an unbelievably powerful god. He is easily comparable to the highest deities in the Greek pantheon, as well as the Norse pantheon, because he beats and kills all of them. He's not only stronger than Asura, faster than Asura. At the very worst, they're even in strength and speed and durability. The biggest advantage that he brings in this fight versus Asura is his unbelievable arsenal. Because if it was a straight-up brawl between them, you could maybe debate it. But Kratos' healing factor and his absolutely busted hacks that he gets from all of the items that he gets from killing gods and demons and stuff would just give him a huge leg up versus Asura, who is basically a Dragon Ball character, really strong and really powerful, but not a lot of versatility and not a lot of different options. Kratos has every option that Asura has and more. And that's why he's gonna beat him.
Perfect timing. All right.
There you go. I always time them well.
Well, let's see if I can time this as I go kind of off the cuff here. All right, let's go. Asura. Asura is the epitome of rage fueled into combat. Think the Hulk. You compared him to a Dragon Ball character. There is some truth to that, but also throw in Hulk, throw in old school Broly, and throw in
new school Broly.
Hindu gods? Asura is an incredibly powerful entity that is a divine protector of the world and beyond. His main tool is his wrath. His wrath manifests as a weapon through the use of mantra, which is basically the life energy of the Asura's Wrath world. It's more complicated than that, but I'll get into that. He is far more powerful than I think Kratos has any hope to ever achieve. Capable of fighting on the levels of gods and deities that reach beyond the Earth, beyond the solar system, into the galaxy, and to the point where he killed the creator of everything itself. A little over. Almost got it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Asura is wildly powerful. But here's the big thing, though, that I kind of realized. You compare him to Dragon Ball, right? And Dragon Ball, of course, has Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan blah, blah, blah. There are all these different forms. Yeah. And each one is notably more powerful than the other, right? Like there is a distinct progression of power level in those sorts of forms.
Yeah.
Asura has has like super forms as well. But they're not exactly like, oh, this one is 10 times more powerful. This one is 20 times more powerful.
Yeah.
They're more so, I don't even know if the forms themselves, except for one, matter all that much in terms of power. And they're more so just representative of his own power. Because his power, when it really comes down to it, the core of Asura's power is the angrier he gets, the more powerful he becomes. And there is apparently no limit to that. The only limit is whether or not his body can maintain it. And by the end of the game, he does get a device that allows him to maintain an infinite level of anger. So I don't know if there is a way to actually kill Asura.
Well, he does actually die in the game, so that does happen, and he has to come back to life after like thousands of years. So he actually
dies
can
several
die
times in the game.
He
but
dies
you're
several
talking
times.
about like early on in the game.
Yeah. But like, if you can like still kill, like, you know, if you were to like rip his head off and like shove it up his ass or something, he would die. That's specifically.
Only one part of that is necessary.
He's like
to kill
a vampire. No, I did this research. He's like a vampire. There's a couple of different steps. head off up ass. Okay, so
I did not see that part of the story, but okay. Good
it's
to know.
chapter 4. You had to pay a lot of money for that DLC. Capcom was very pricey with it. Okay, so you mentioned that his rage has no limit. In that it'll just keep on going and going and going, kind of like the Hulk. Maybe even better than the Hulk, because the Hulk has that sort of thing where it is possible at his rage to plateau. Not only does Kratos also get a boost from rage, he has something that's actually better than strength that is tied to an infinitely increasing rage. Because infinitely increasing means that it's not infinite. It's just going to keep going. You know what's better than infinite after an infinite amount of time? Infinite right fucking now. He fought
what?
infinite right now. So
I need a visual aid.
yeah. Well, so there's this character called Atlas, who is a titan in Greek mythology that holds up the pillar of the world, which itself holds up the entire mortal realm and the infinite, and that's a quote, infinite heavens and sky above it. It is an infinite amount of mass that he is holding up. He's holding up the entire universe. And that's just one of the strength feats that Kratos can scale to. One of the difficult things with God of War and analyzing God of War and Versus is that if you like play the game, it's like, oh, he moves a big rock or something, and oh, he fights a big monster thing. But when you get into the lore, you get a lot more context for how fucking powerful this is. And the thing is, it's not a stretch because this shit is like the same in Greek mythology. Remember, we had Hercules at that same kind of like infinite strength for doing the same thing that Atlas did. This is just copying that for the games. I'm not saying we're scaling him to actual myth. I'm saying that, it's not a stretch. It's not like this unheard of outlier thing because it's actually based on what it is in actual mythology. So he is that strong.
Does that apply to the God of War mythos though?
It does. It's the infinite heavens. I'm not scaling it to what we talked about in that episode. The infinite quote is actually from God of War. That is stated in the games.
Where?
He also.
When did they talk about that?
Let's see. We have to pull up the exact quote
because Hercules.
Pull it up. Back it up.
Well,
Hercules in the game is. He can break a couple rocks, but he can't lift up a fucking universe.
I'm so glad you said this, Ben. I'm so glad that you said that. That Kratos shouldn't be universe level in strength. Mike, could you play that clip that I sent you, please?
Whoa.
Oh no, there's no sound!
No.
No!
Well,
the sound is of you saying that you could throw a universe at Kratos and he would be fine.
See, I was reading my lips there, and it did not seem like I was saying that at all.
Oh no!
Whereas Atlas did create the whole fucking universe, and
Mountain.
Atlas carried the whole fucking universe. And Kronos is about as strong as Atlas, if not stronger, because he's like the main guy. And Kratos could literally physically overpower Kronos.
A mountain.
So this sort of means that you could throw the universe at Kratos and it would do nothing to him because he's a god.
Sounds like I'm saying mountain.
I kept hearing, I thought it was universe the first time I heard it, but now all I heard was mountain. Gosh, I have egg on my face.
I was saying mountain.
Also, like, how far back did you pull that footage from?
I know.
Where was that from?
That was from like a year or over a year ago.
Jeff Mike's there? Like, that was like ages ago.
That's amazing.
Oh my God.
I had no idea that was going to happen.
The deep archives.
Okay.
I was waiting. I was like, "When's the right moment?" And I think I undershot. I think I could have gotten you to like be more definitive about him not being universe level before I brought that out. But you said universe, so I said, "Okay, that's fine."
Wow, jumping right into it. Okay.
So
you were just so excited to do that bit.
I was so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron was like, kind of mean to do it if he only had a couple hours to practice because Chad was going to argue for Asura. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be like mean." And then we were talking, and I was like, "No, I'll do it. This will be funny."
Forget it. It'll be fine.
All right. Well, you know what? I guess I gotta bring up.
Bring it up.
I mean, we're jumping straight to like
We're
full
already
power
here.
here, but let's go
can't
ahead
do
and
it.
talk
You
about
can't start
it.
any earlier.
Okay. Full disclosure, I was not originally planning to cover Asura, so I don't have footage or anything like that to share. But I can pull up an image, and I'll send this to you, Mike. Hopefully this is good enough. There is a I'll talk about the final boss, but let me put this in
Chakravartin.
the chat so that you can post this image or show this image, Mike. Chakravartin is the final boss of Asura's Wrath. Let's jump all the way to the end. This is the DLC story, right? So the basically the general gist of Asura's Wrath is the 8 guardian generals, or the 8 deities, as they call themselves, or 7, I guess, because Asura doesn't consider himself a deity. They possess power over mantra, and mantra is basically an energy manifested by the abstract emotions. Asura naturally gets his power from wrath. The other gods get, or deities or demigods get their powers from like lust and sloth and other sins and whatnot. Mantra comes from this guy, Chakravartin. He is the creator of mantra, said to be the creator of the universe, or at least he claims to be. And when all the gods are dead except for Asura, he basically is like, "Good job, Asura, you did it. You proved that you're the best person ever. So now you get to own the universe while I go work on another one." But he's been manipulating Asura the whole time. He kidnapped and basically like possessed Asura's daughter. So Asura's like, "Fuck that, I'm gonna punch you." And he beats the shit out of Chakravartin and eventually kills him. Now the final battle against Chakravartin, which this image should help show, he is, so the majority of the story takes place on Earth, right?
Yeah.
Or an Earth standing called Gaia. But the final battle takes place in the center of the Milky Way. Inside the center of the Milky Way, Chakravartin is absorbing what appears to be every single galaxy in the universe. They are being pulled towards him and shrunk down and absorbed into his avatar form. While Asura's fighting him, he's like basically taking planets and stars and whatnot and throwing them at Asura. But Chakravartin's goal is to basically, because Asura refused to claim the universe, to destroy the universe and rebuild it anew. And Asura beats the shit out of Chakravartin. In fact, to a point, he's able to beat him in his base form, which again goes back to the idea that I don't know if the forms necessarily matter in terms of like, this form is more powerful than this form or whatever, except for his wrath form. There is a specific wrath form that Asura has that where he kind of loses control, but he has worked to kind of overcome that. Every other form that he has, I think, is more so just a manifestation of this is just how much like power he has thanks to his anger. And he uses the anger, which was created by Chakravartin because of the mantra, to destroy Chakravartin. The only way Asura ends up dying at the end is because once he kills Chakravartin, mantra no longer exists. So Asura can no longer exist.
Yeah.
That's why he dies at the end, not because Chakravartin's stronger than him or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's more powerful than Chakravartin. He basically proves that this energy that Chakravartin has created the universe with can have no limit and can expand beyond its original creator. That's sort of his arc in terms of his power set. And raising his level of power. Basically, the idea is it's that Goku thing where he sees he's challenged by a level of power. He will rise to meet it. Unlike Goku, though, he doesn't have to go through a training arc. He does not need to go find Roshi or King Kai or anything like that. It just happens.
Well, how else are we supposed to get hyped?
Stronger. Yeah, exactly. So in the battle with Chakravartin, Chakravartin assumes his creator form, right? Like the most powerful entity in the multiverse. Originally, he's beating the shit out of both Asura and his friend Yasha. And then he makes Asura's daughter cry And Asura just goes, nah, I don't like that, and becomes more powerful than the creator of the universe.
Yeah.
Just because he's really mad that this guy made his daughter cry. It just happens. No training involved. Nothing. He doesn't have to like lift weights. He doesn't have to go to the gym. He just gets fucking pissed.
I mean,
dad feet for dad feet. Liam, do you have a dad feet?
Yeah.
I will say, like, he had been like fighting for like thousands of years, right? Like he was training at some point, but this exact moment of power increase was not a training thing. He just got mad.
Sort of. Asura's mostly asleep for. The game takes place over 1,200 years, but he's mostly like at the beginning of the game, he's killed by the other gods and sent to hell, essentially, and then he wakes up and climbs his way out of hell.
Okay.
And then he's killed again and sent back to hell and climbs his way back. Every time he gets killed, he just climbs his way back out. And that's like early game before he had unlocked his true potential and whatnot.
So he does something really cool in the beginning, then dies and is gone for most of the story, and then comes back and kicks God's ass. So he is Goku, basically, is what you're saying.
That sounds pretty Goku.
If instead of Goku training, he just slept.
He just slept.
He just napped.
Well,
napped it
Kratos
off.
was able to fight Kronos. Oh wait, we already saw that clip. Was able to fight Kronos, who, and I can give context to it. Kronos, who it was his creation, also created time, and he was able to defeat his father Uranos, who, in the battle with other primordial gods, created the universe. And Uranos, after he won the Theogony, or the first war between the gods, he took control of the universe. Kronos beat him, and then Kratos beats Kronos. And Kronos isn't even the strongest Titan. Atlas is, and Kratos beat Atlas as well, and Zeus is stronger than all of them, and he beat Zeus. So, that's because he got angry enough, because Kratos is just really pissed about everything. I feel like, to be honest, Kratos has a really tragic backstory, but I definitely would have not been like that angry after all of the entire God of War series. I would have like chilled out after a certain, like, it's really bad. But Kratos also like kills God. He's that angry, and I feel like he's a bit of a drama queen, but he's as if a drama queen made him as powerful as God. And that's what Kratos is.
So are you saying your anger management is God level, like greater than?
Well, I just think Kratos is a bit of a crybaby, just a tad. But it's that crybabiness which makes him so powerful. And so I think at worst, like I said at the beginning, I think they're as strong as each other. But Kratos, I would argue, is stronger because of the statement that it's an infinite, that the mortal realm is infinite in size and mass, which would be larger than a universe. Whereas Asura can increase infinitely potentially, but Kratos is at that level.
So, like the Brawl Bro in the chat mentions, Liam, he killed his wife and daughter. Have you killed your wife and daughter?
I've never
Are
killed
you
my
able
wife
to
and
relate
daughter,
to that?
and I would be first of all, I probably wouldn't be mad if I killed my wife and daughter. I would be like traumatized and probably like emotionally vacant. I'd probably just like die of grief. But I don't think I'd get so mad that I'd kill God.
But then you'd chill out and you'd be fine.
I think I don't think I would kill God. I aspire to that level of anger. It'd be great. I'm just saying, like, it's so many fucking games. I mean, the series has been going on for 20 years. Like, dude, just take it. I guess that's what the new God of War series is him chilling out until more gods come and start bullying him. They're like the Norse gods are like those like Victorian bullies. Like, well, what if we go, yeah? And they're like just like kicking sand in Kratos' face until he gets mad enough and starts ripping their heads off and shoving them up their asses, which, as we recall, Asura's one weakness.
Right.
Anyways,
previously established.
Right. Chopping off his head, shoving you up is okay. Good. See, I did not come across that weakness at all. So that's very good for me to know.
I think so. I think it's important.
I will say, I think it would be good to mention then Kratos' weakness, which is, he's just got a fracture in his jaw that if you punch it, he just dies.
He heals. He heals, and we see it. He's been able to stab himself, and he's regenerated from that. He's also we see in his fight with Balder. After his fight with Balder, he gets all these wounds and shit, and he just kind of goes, "Urgh!" And then like the wounds just sort of close on each other. So even if what you just said was real, he can just rage heal. He just tenses his cheeks and just goes, "Urgh!" and gets better, which is what I do. But it doesn't work. I usually just sort of shit myself when I do that. I don't heal.
Too much information. Okay, so he can rage heal from wounds. Can he regrow limbs?
I don't think he can regrow limbs.
If you chop off Kratos' arm, he can't just regrow it, right?
But Kratos is the one with an axe. Asura don't got no axe.
Asura can rip off an arm. He can also, I didn't really mention this, he also fires mantra as just energy beams that can eclipse the earth and blow up planets and whatnot.
Sure.
So he's got a range aspect. He's not just going to run up and punch him. Like he can attack from range. And also, while he cannot regrow limbs himself, he can create energy limbs. He can create extra limbs.
Okay, he just goes, and then limbs pop out.
Yeah, basically. A lot of his extra, well, I guess he technically means he can regrow limbs, because a lot of his extra forms have just multiple limbs. And also he can create like normal limbs or energy, like giant energy limbs out of mantra.
Yeah. Let's talk about
there's sort of a, I don't know, it never really goes into how it works specifically, but there is sort of a Green Lantern-esque thing going on with mantra where he can like create things from it.
What you said reminded me of that Green Lantern feat that we mentioned in Ben 10 versus Green Lantern, our greatest episode ever, where he overpowers Krona, who had possession of Ion, who is the god embodiment of willpower, and how out-willpowered that. So it does kind of sound like that, where it's like, oh, you're Mr. Mantra? Well, actually, I'm Mantra-ier, because I'm angry.
Sure.
You get what I mean. Yeah, kind of the same thing. But let's talk about range. Yeah. He absolutely has really cool, powerful energy beams. Let's talk about what some of the items that Kratos has. He has the Amulet of Ouroboros and the Amulet of Fates, 2 different amulets, which can slow down time. The Amulet of Ouroboros slows down the time of, and affects the time of certain objects and people. It can age and de-age things, move them back and forward in time. And the Amulet of Fates will slow down time in the vicinity. The Oath Stone of Orcos can summon a clone of Kratos, which can fight with him. Medusa's Gaze and the head of Euryale can petrify enemies, just turn them to stone with a glance. Bye-bye, Asura. How did that DLC end? I recall. Turn to stone. No resistance to that. The Scourge of Aranis can suck in enemies with a void and absorb their souls and health. The Horn of Boreas summons like the North Wind or what the fuck ever, and it can freeze enemies. The Blade of Olympus can kill immortals. The Golden Fleece reflects magical attacks and drains magic from other magical things. With Wings of Icarus, he can fly. The Claws of Hades, he can rip the souls out of you. Boots of Hermes give him super speed, which is not as impressive as that other stuff. Leviathan Axe, it's an axe. It freezes, and it comes back to your hand. Poseidon's Wrath fires a big electrical beam, which does not only destroy your body, it destroys your soul as well. And Typhon's Bane, which is, it's a bow that can shoot an arrow, which splits into millions of pieces. Asura is gonna have a hard time with some of those. Some of those I'm sure you'd be like, whatever. But
I see you in chat. Thank you. You are absolutely right. But thank you for listing off some things to say here, because yes, that Asura has counters to all of this. So for one thing, as a King of Heroes Gilgamesh mentions, Amulet of Fates requires a certain room, and statues Amulet of Ouroboros can be dodged and blocked. Either way, even if he's able to use those to stop time or turn Asura to stone, Asura has resisted time stops from Chakravartin, god of existence, and has fought while still frozen in stone. He can just resist that shit.
He did not fight. He was frozen in stone. There was like a little crack, and that was after like thousands of years. It like cuts to like thousands of years later, and there's like a little like that.
He can power through it. He can once he has the amount of power he has at the end of the game, he can absolutely power through it. Again, so I didn't mention this. The idea that there's a limit or whatever to his anger. He's given a device at the beginning of the DLC. that basically, so throughout the game, the divines are basically killing people to absorb their souls because that's how they gather mantra. They've basically lost the originally prayer was supposed to give mantra, but the deities are like lose themselves basically. But they're gathering it in this like engine, and so in order to reach a level of power to combat Chakravartin, Yasha gives it basically implants this engine into into Asura so that he can basically use the power of all mantra out there. And even though it doesn't seem necessary at all to me, he also takes his own engine out and shoves that into Asura as well. I don't really know why he needs to do this, but he does it anyway. I guess just to double the infinity.
Why not?
Naturally.
Yeah, sure.
That's math.
But the amount of power Asura has at that point is leagues above what he had throughout the rest of the game, including where, he was frozen in stone and eventually his mantra was able to break free of it. So there's no reason to say that he couldn't just resist that at this point. And again, we're talking about powers that are on a universal scale from the likes of Chakravartin.
We are talking about powers on a universal scale, an infinite scale, when we're talking about Kratos. I don't think that we can bring up power to say that he could counter it when these powers, I mean, he beat Kronos, who is the god of time. Like, if you want to talk about power in relation to Haxes, then Kratos has got you no matter what.
Okay. So
I feel like I just counted.
I do think so.
Like
Power has to become an aspect of it because that is kind of Asura's whole thing. Yeah. That is going to be his answer. And the tool that he has is that his mantra, his ability to use mantra through wrath, allows itself to reach levels that are necessary to overcome whatever he is fighting. Again, he was fighting God. He did not have God level power. He just attained it because he was fighting God. So there is frankly no reason to say that if he's fighting Kratos and Kratos does something that can overpower him, he should be able to reach to change his level of power to match that. So if Kratos is going to do something that will overpower him, whether it's through his own power or through hacks, Asura will answer that by just increasing his power level against that. The only way Kratos can actually beat Asura is if he does something that doesn't overpower him, that beats him in another way. And I don't think he's got something that can do that.
Totally disagree with when you said that he didn't have God power. He didn't have a God level of power when he fought Chakravartin. He did. It wasn't like he met Chakravartin and Chakravartin went, and then that was the end of the fight, and then Asura went fuck, and then it punched him. He was always like getting stronger throughout Asura's wrath. He was still able to he was weaker than Chakravartin at the beginning of their fight, but he kept increasing. He wasn't like leagues below. He could still fight him. He could still block his attacks and fight. And then he got stronger and stronger and stronger.
That is literally what happened. Chakravartin became his creator form. Yes. Asura went to punch him. He catches Asura's fist and is like, weak, pathetic, and just blasts him, one-shots him. It's over. The fight is over.
It was not over because he got right back up and kept fighting him, and he got stronger.
But he can't. Right, that's what I'm saying. He was leagues below Chakravartin at that point, and then through the fight reached a level that he was above him.
He wasn't leagues below. And the fact that we're still talking about set levels of power is the problem here, right? Okay, he could increase his power to match Chakravartin. Kratos is strong enough to lift infinity. His limit does not exist as a starting point. So you could say that Asura could potentially increase to infinity, but by the nature of infinity, it would take an infinite amount of time to get there. He could only get closer and closer, infinitely close to Kratos' level of strength, but not Kratos' level of strength. And I don't think that's just saying that
Kratos cannot be infinitely strong. Neither of these guys can be infinitely strong. It wouldn't make any sense logically in their stories.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. It's straight from fucking Greek mythology, and it's in the games. They say that the amount of weight that he is lifting, that Atlas is lifting, is infinity. and that's the same as it is in Greek mythology, and that's what Kratos can do as well.
I mean, they also say in Asura's Wrath that the thing that they're fighting, Vlitrin, what the heck is that thing called again? Vlitra.
Yeah, Vlitra.
The entity that's within the earth has infinite power as well. They just say that at the beginning. But like,
there's a difference though, right? Like what specifically do you mean? Like when we're talking about infinity in the context of what I'm talking about, we're talking about a universe that is stated to be infinite in size, thus infinite in mass, like in a literal way. Versus infinite in power, like, oh, he never runs out of energy, or he's really, really strong. God of War gives us the specifics, and those specifics are again just taken from Greek mythology. So if you want to hair split with strength, I think you're always going to be able to rely on Kratos to be stronger.
I don't know if that makes any sense though. Like logically for Kratos,
I do know that it makes sense.
What does Kratos do that proves that he could even potentially reach that level? Like, at least we're seeing Asura like match this level of power, this level of universal destruction.
Okay, the primordial beings, including Uranos, in a cutscene are fighting, and the clash of their swords creates a universe. Uranos was beaten by Kronos. Kratos beat the ever-loving shit out of Kronos. That's how, right? Like, you don't see Chakravartin create a universe, but we know that he can
by Kronos? Is that right?
Yes. Yep. That's also just from Greek mythology. That's the Titanomachy.
Okay, hang on. How much of this is Greek mythology and how much like actual Greek mythology and how much of this
that I'm saying here is taken from quotes from the game.
I'm curious if anybody in chat knows about this, because this feels like we're taking aspects from like mythological.
From you! That's why I brought that clip up. This is your argument, Ben.
It's not my argument right now, Liam.
It's not your argument right now, but it was good enough for you when you were arguing for Kratos, so it's good enough for me.
Okay.
Heroes Gilgamesh says Kronos did not fight Uranos.
He did. Psst, wrong.
All right. So while we ruminate on that for a little bit, I do need to pause us for just a minute to talk about our sponsor for this week's episode. Not Greek mythology. We're sponsored this week by Tales of the Stinky Dragon. The hilarious audio D&D podcast starring Rooster Teeth's very own Barbara Dunkelman, Blaine Gibson, John Reisinger, Gus Arolo as the Dungeon Master, and Chris Damaris, the voice of Death Battle's very own misfortunate robotic minion, Dummy. And this group isn't any ordinary party. They are interns for an adventuring group known as the Infinites. But on their first day of employment, they discover their legendary employers have been kidnapped. Womp womp. Can these hapless interns save the day, or will the backflipping, ghost-fighting, pirate-loving group need to be saved themselves? So, sounds like a pretty, a relatable D&D group. It's a show for D&D amateurs and veterans alike with top-tier storytelling, immersive sound design, and original score, which is kind of dope, and special guest voice actors each week. So go listen and subscribe to Tales from the Stinky Dragon wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that's Tales from the Stinky Dragon. Yes, it sounds a little gross. Go check it out. All right, thanks, Tales from the Stinky Dragon. So let's
I want to address something from the chat. Senator Armstrong says, and I can tell that this is a biased comment because I argued against Armstrong last week and also for Armstrong last week, but less successfully. Didn't Liam wear that shirt last week? Yes, but I had laundry day on Saturday. So this is clean. This is fucking clean, Senator Armstrong. I just wanted to address that argument.
Wait, is Senator Armstrong himself in the chat?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Armstrong? So I missed the Senator Armstrong debate because I was sick. I don't know if you can hear my voice. I'm still a little sick. But I heard Senator Armstrong did very well.
He lost.
Oh, never mind. I heard Senator Armstrong did terrible. Well, I wish he did because I was supposed to rep him.
That's true.
Okay, so, well, good to know, Liam, that you do your laundry.
Yes,
really,
that's good.
I'm really
I had a
proud
good
of you. Yeah.
Thank you. I love your
Reassurance
wall,
to us all.
Aaron, by the way. There's a lot of nice stuff on the wall. I'm gonna put up bookshelves
you.
on my wall to kind of like populate it a bit. Because I need the space. I'm gonna take some of these posters down. I don't know. Anyways,
Okay.
Ben argument.
I-
Vertigo poster's cool.
I know, I
I-
love it. That's great.
I want to talk with Josh and Aaron for a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Josh, let's start with you.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about this? Is there like a question or aspect of this that you're not certain about or that you're questioning
Well,
that you need to know?
yeah, I'm curious because like I'm more familiar with Kratos, and Liam mentioned it at some point. I think early on, like he's got a diversity in his like arsenal, lots of different ways and methods of attacks and stuff. And I just don't know, like how Asura kind of scales to that. Like what kinds of stuff can he do? Like what would be a killing? Like how would he land a killing blow?
Asura, okay. So Asura's main methods of attacks are, of course, punching. But Mantra's sort of used in a free form kind of way, where he can create arms with it, he can empower his punches with it, or he can create energy beams of a variety of different types. There's a fight that he has with like a fleet where he's firing like you're like moving around like Star Fox kind of thing. Then he starts just firing lasers everywhere. He just fires like hundreds of lasers all at once, blasting a bunch of different ships all at once. And then he also charges like a fireball that he throws into space and it explodes and obliterates half the fleet all on its own. So he can basically create explosive energy however he wants it to work. Time delayed explosion, laser beam, multi-spread, however he wants it to be thrown at the enemy. And the range of which can match, of course, Chakravartin, who fired a beam essentially from the center of the Milky Way to Earth, which is billions of light years of speed. So his beams have to be able to match something like that. Yeah, that's kind of his ranged option and his physical option. But he's not using weapons per se. And it just more so is how, if he needs to be stronger to punch something, he can get stronger because of his mantra. And I know some people I did see this in the chat. I saw a few people asking like, isn't that like a no limits fallacy and whatnot? And to a certain extent it is. That's just kind of how his power works though. I'm sure there is a limit somewhere, but based on what we saw in the game, there doesn't seem to be one, at least on the level that this fight would take place within. Like if he was going to fight something that could like destroy the multiverse, maybe he could reach a limit there. Because presumably Mantra can only reach a limit that is similar to Chakravartin. But I mean, he's able to like overpower Chakravartin. So that also kind of goes against that idea.
What could he do against the claws of Hades, which would just rip his soul out?
So Mantra is the soul, and he's powered by Mantra. So I'm not entirely sure. My best guess is that it just wouldn't, because he's consistently being fueled by soul.
Mm-hmm.
So it would like start pulling out Mantra, but he's got more Mantra there.
But it's not targeting like the Mantra reactor. It's targeting his soul itself, not like the source of energy. That's
So to
powering
clarify, souls are Mantra in his universe. That's the reason why the gods were killing, or the deities were killing people, because they were pulling their souls out to fill up their Mantra engine.
Okay.
So if his soul is pulled out, I mean, presumably the claws can maybe pull out his Mantra, but there's just going to be more. He's constantly creating it.
It works on beings like Hades himself. Like Kratos uses those claws against Hades and pulls his soul out. Like it works on gods of the same level of power as Kratos. So if he and Asura are comparable, then realistically it should probably work. I know also that like there's a statement of some shit or something that like souls No, never mind. I thought it was something else.
Asura, King of Heroes Gilgamesh mentions that if Kratos can resist the claws of Hades, then Asura should as well. And they are on similar levels of power, and combined with the fact that he has the mantra engine and is producing so much mantra by himself, like I think it would be difficult for that to just rip out his soul and be done with it. But maybe it could make him weaker. I don't know. That I feel like that's kind of there's definitely a big guessing game there.
Are the claws something you have to hit someone with? Like, will he be able to land that
weapon.
hit? Yeah.
They're
So
off the Blades of
who's
Chaos.
faster?
Speed. Let's talk about speed.
Okay.
Okay, so with Kratos, he is stated to be faster than a being that can move at light speed, but that's like some basic shit. That's like baby poo. This is the real shit.
Of course.
So what's important to recognize is that he has a weapon called what the fuck is it called? The Light of Dawn. Which uses the same power source, the primordial fire, as Helios. Helios's light beams. Helios is the god of light, and the beams that they use are like the same exact kind of thing. So it's basically the same power. Helios is the god of light and was able to light up the entirety of the underworld, literally all of the underworld, in a single like light, a zap thing. And what's important about that is the underworld's size, which is stated multiple times to be infinite, which means that Helios's light beams are not just simple, regular light beams that we know that have a constant speed. They can move infinitely fast. And Hermes himself is faster than Helios, and Zeus is faster than Hermes, and Kratos has fought fucking all three of them. He actually ripped off Helios's head and uses his like gaping maw as like an attack. So not only is Kratos like infinitely strong, he's also arguably infinitely fast too, which is not totally crazy when you could definitely lift like an infinite amount of weight. Being infinitely fast is not a huge jump from that point too.
I feel like I need to install like a swear jar for the rest of this cast. Instead of when you swear every single time you say infinite, you owe me $1.
So let me be a little more realistic, Liam, and actually give you a number. Because there's no way in hell Kratos has infinite speed. Asura, I mentioned the race to fight Chakravartin at the center of the galaxy, right? So I found a calc on Versus Battles Wiki by somebody named the Glassman12. Wherever you are, thank you. Basically calcing the distance of Asura flying towards him, which, by the way, was in combat. He's like smashing through planets and stars that Chakravartin is throwing at him during this. So this is not max speed at all. This is combat speed for certain. And it basically came out to about 3 billion times light speed. Just in terms of flying towards Chakravartin from the Earth. So, and again, in combat, smashing through planets and other celestial bodies being thrown at him. So 3 billion times light speed, just by that alone. There's no way Kratos is infinite in speed, because if he was, he wouldn't have to like climb out of hell. Which, by the way, it was mentioned that hell in Greek mythology is infinite in size. The hell that
Hell and God of War,
Asura has to climb out of, Naraka, is infinite in size. So if we do want to put infinity into this, technically he climbed out of an infinite space somehow. That doesn't make any sense. There's no like logic to that. I don't want to say he has infinite speed because of that, but if you're going to throw the infinite word around, sure, there's this.
I don't know. That seems reasonable. I've never seen somebody argue that before, so I'm betting that there might be context that makes it not that. But the way you say it, that makes sense. I don't know.
Unfortunately, Asura's wrath doesn't like context a lot, so there is no context. Things just sort of happen.
I want to address that. Like, there's no way that he does, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to do this. That it like, let's return to Hercules. I think this is a good example.
Oh my god!
One of Hercules' labors is fighting a giant pig. Right? Why the fuck should a giant pig be any fucking trouble for a guy that can lift infinity? As stated by the same Greek myths that's from, right? there is like inconsistency is just a thing. There wouldn't be a video game if Kratos if Kratos like was depicted as lore accurate at in moment to moment gameplay. That's the same thing with the Flash though. That's the same thing with tons of characters. So like I think the fact that Kratos is a mythological being that fights gods like Hermes, who is the god of speed. He is the god of speed. It gives you some license to be like, okay, when we hear these incredible things like he can lift infinity, like, why not? Why isn't that true? This is the god of strength, and he fucking like ripped his head off and shoved his head, I keep saying this, up his ass, right?
Look,
which is Asura's weakness.
Argus in the chat has a really good point though. It's a really big pig, Liam.
It is a big pig, but it's not an infinite pig. It's not an infinite pig.
Aaron,
that would have been too much bacon for the world to.
I need to ask you, what is something that you're missing from this that you need to know to come to your conclusion?
I don't even know.
What are you feeling right now?
Knowing nothing about either of these characters, to be fair. But I feel like
and
right
left
now it's just
knowing even less.
Infinitely more.
Honestly,
None of this makes any sense.
I'm aware they're both infinite in some capacity.
Yeah.
I guess it's just more so like what are their I think it's come up for both of these characters that they've like died and come back before. So I think I'm mainly at this point just curious, not even so much how they would go about killing each other, but what their kill conditions are and what their options are for coming back and if that would be applicable.
I think it's actually very similar between them. Like they can both die and then they go to hell and then they come back. Kratos has defeated beings that can do that though and permanently kill them. There are like undead enemies that he can fucking fuck the claws of Hades. He can like hold souls in his hands like wraiths and just crush them. He has ways of dealing with that, but I would, without getting too much into it, if they were able to kill the other, even if the other one could like climb out of hell or Naraka or whatever, I think that would still count as a kill for the sake of a death battle.
Yeah, I don't think it ever really explores it in Asura's Wrath, but technically speaking, anytime he kills one of the deities, they should also go to Naraka and they should also be capable of climbing out, or at least maybe some of them. Not all of them are like quite as strong or like strength type characters. I think in this context, just a death is a death. Yeah. I mean, it's like when thinking of Kratos versus Spawn, or anytime we bring a character like Kratos into death battle, as far as I'm concerned, unless they can like pop back up immediately, if they die and they go off to the underworld or whatever their universe's concept of death is, that sounds like a win to me. That sounds like an end.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kratos does have a healing factor, which is an advantage in terms of like a fight to the death, right? Because it means his death will come later than his opponent who does not have one, assuming they're comparably strong, which they are. If not, Kratos is stronger. But like, I think that is an advantage that he has in terms of like survivability. He can survive being stabbed. He can just use his rage to close wounds. His stamina is also infinite. He possesses infinite magical power as well.
Where's the swear jar?
That I do not mean to be like infinity. I mean like Android.
You literally said the word infinite.
I don't mean like is his like fart beam or whatever is infinite power, infinite jewels. I mean just like it doesn't end.
Did you say fart beam?
I just made some shit up. I'm making a point here. I'm saying he's like the androids from Dragon Ball. Okay, in terms of
Kratos
magic.
does not have a fart beam. I'm fairly certain of that.
Everyone look up answers or some shit. It's 4:54.
I was about to get to that. Yes, okay, you're right. It's time to do this. Hey, all right, we're gonna go ahead and bring up the poll in just a second, but let's go ahead and bring up the answers you guys sent to us over the community tab on YouTube before the show. Let's go ahead and bring up the first one. Josh, you want to read the first one?
Sure. Gator Loki says, while Asura might be able to kill creator of the universe, Kratos can scale to Atlas, lifting the cosmos, which are somewhat comparable. Even if Asura was more powerful, Kratos has the legs of Hermes, god of speed, which should make him faster, not even counting the infinite speed arguments, also hacks.
Also, I love the name Gator Loki.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Also, I didn't make up the infinite arguments. Can't say that I made them up. Other people know about him. Wasn't me.
Well, all right. Let's go ahead and see what the answer for Asura is. Let's bring that up. Maybe it has an infinite argument.
Haxa Codex says Asura is a god killer, but uses his bare hands. He shattered a planet-sized god with a punch. His teacher sent him from the moon to the earth, and he shrugged it off. He a god in space who was throwing planets at him, and he doesn't hide behind magic weapons. Wow.
Wow.
So he doesn't hide behind any weapons.
That
Kratos
was
doesn't
pointed.
need any magic weapons. In fact, is it count as hiding if those weapons have been literally grafted to your skin magically? I don't think so. Kratos can use his bare hands if he wants to.
He does.
He does. He goes,
Sometimes.
"Rah!" and then he rips.
Okay. I mean, I
And he
didn't
has
even talk about him
axe.
fighting the Karma Fortress. There's like so many gigantic. The very
Karma
first boss,
Fortress.
or not the very first boss, but one of the very first bosses in the game, grows to the size of the Earth and like tries to crush you under his finger.
Yeah,
And
I love him. He's so funny.
Asura's response to it is to catch
Ryzen,
the
right?
giant finger and then just punch it a million times until the entire being just shatters. Like this, like eclipsing the planet. He's just broken. He shatters to pieces. It's incredible. Asura's Wrath is, if anything, looking it up on YouTube is fun as hell. I highly recommend watching some of the fights. But
it's a tragedy that it bombed or it did not do as well as they had wished it would.
just
But
should have released it differently. Like,
Yeah.
who wants to buy a game that going into it doesn't have the ending
Yeah.
stupid.
baked in? Like it's a little dumb, which is unfortunate.
But everyone loves it.
Yeah. Asura is a great character. The story's really fun. But yes, the poll is currently up. So go ahead and get your votes in. Let's go ahead and get the votes from here, starting with Josh.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry, I got it mixed up. There is one vote that we need to get before you.
Yeah.
The poll vote.
Oh yeah.
The first poll vote
Of course.
from the community. Let's go ahead and bring that one up first. Not the live one, but the pre one.
Ooh,
Okay.
Jesus. I was not expecting that.
Just in
Wow.
case this
Yeah,
changes things.
Thought it would be
Kratos
closer.
wins the first poll, 72%.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one vote for Kratos. Now we're back to you, Josh. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no, it's okay. It's okay. If so, my thought is like if we've compared Asura to like a Dragon Ball type character, which we've done a couple times at this cast, then it seems to me that like, and without naming any names, that Kratos is maybe like a certain DC character that kind of gets written to be as strong or as fast as he needs to be to defeat God X, Y, and Z.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe a
it's
little
like
bit.
comparable comparison. So in that sense, I'm gonna go Kratos.
Okay, so we got two Kratos. All right, Aaron, who are you voting for?
I feel like I need like another 3 hours worth of rest.
So
feel
do
like
I.
it's a tough call. And I think because of the infinite swear jar, I'm just gonna go ahead and say Asura.
Damn you! I'm not.
Expand some
Amazing. vocabulary
and maybe you'll win.
That's awesome.
All right, so that's two Kratos, one Asura. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up the vote in the poll, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I will say, this was one of the matchups that was on our community ballot that a lot of you guys voted on for a matchup for season 10. Which, hey, we got some news for season 10 coming up in some upcoming Death Metal casts, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And I part of me was kind of rooting for this one because, like,
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool. So
Me too.
I would love to see this be an actual death battle. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like crazy stuff that we could do with it if we make it a actual death battle. So let us know. Leave a comment. Let us know if you think this should be a real death battle and like get into the really nitty gritty of it. Because Aaron, you're absolutely right. There's no way we can cover this in just an hour.
Yeah.
While also riffing and making fun of cutting Asura's head off and putting it up his butt for some reason.
It'd be great, I think.
Not a weekness.
Solid. It is a weakness.
Not gonna happen. All right, let's go ahead and get the vote in from the chat. We'll go ahead and wrap up that vote.
You all betray me.
Oh,
you all betray me.
Oh my God!
Wow.
51% Asura. Holy
Not
shit!
expect that. Wow.
That is so close.
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh
That's a
wow, it was
comeback.
almost 50-50.
It was 50-50 for a little bit. I saw it.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Okay. So that means we
Epic.
You have a
we
tie.
have 2 votes for Kratos and 2 for Asura. We have a tie. That means it goes to our director for the show, Mike. Mike, you're a tiebreaker. Who wins, Kratos or Asura?
You know I love when this happens, right?
Yeah.
You love it.
Trade all your gods.
Who you voting?
I'm going Kratos.
Mike votes for Kratos. That's it. Kratos wins via a sliver.
Really?
Wins
You
this
think that would
community
happen?
death battle. Dang it, almost. I'm kind of.
Might need to do the
Thank you for
episode.
voting for Asura, chat.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I have no idea what I said to change your minds, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Asura's just a cool character. He's really
sick.
dope. So jumping into this, I had to kind of jump in a little late, but like really like learning more about Asura and watching through the game and whatnot. It's a cool ass game. It's a really cool character. Definitely worth checking out if you have not seen or played Asura's Wrath. All right, well, that will do it for today. Josh, Aaron, thank you for being wonderful jury members, judges, whatever we call you. I don't remember. Both. Liam, touche.
Thank you.
You won. Good job.
I did. But you almost bested me.
Well,
So
you know,
good job to
one
you.
day.
It's very exciting.
And, you beat me before. You beat me before.
Yeah,
I've beaten
plenty
you
of
before
times.
as well.
Many times. All the time. Thank you all for joining us for another Death Battle cast. We will, as always, we are doing these live every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central. So please tune into the next one if you can. And until then, as always, be kind to others, be kind to yourself, be awesome. We'll see you next week. Take care.
All right.